Hey, have the educators in your school, club, or youth group done the Building Racial Literacy program? The free course run by Education Scotland is helping all educators become anti racist so that all students feel included and represented. And teachers have the skills and knowledge to recognize racist language and incidents. Find out more about how we are building an anti-racist Scotland in the link below.
What like? This is the last thing I want to be talking about right now, quite frankly, I'd rather be out enjoying the remainder of the sun before it fucks off for the evening with my dog at Loch Ness or whatever. But I just happened to stumble across the latest tiny advertisement for the latest Building Racial Literacy program. Sort of Education Scotland slash Scottish Government funded program, critical race theory program, that for the longest time since people like myself, not limited to, of course, brought attention to it, a program that prior to attention being brought in their direction was pretty open about their intentions going forward and whatnot. Ever since we brought the attention towards them, they've kind of gone under the radar, hidden behind rocks, etc. And it's very, very, very rare to see anything coming out of that sort of ether, so to speak. But lo and behold, here's the latest installment. But what I found quite startling, in all honesty, was the fact that it said just here on this website, which is where the link was, that the National Building Racial Literacy Program promotes anti-racism as a baseline provisional value, blah, 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 blue. We've all heard the bullshit before, but however, they're now advertising for the latest up-and-coming installment for the program, and they're now on their 7th cohort, their 7th round now at this point. Now, if we come on to Education Scotland's website from back in the day, just to sort of refresh people's memories, sorry, the Building Racial Literacy Program promotes anti-racism as a baseline professional value. The ultimate goal of the Building Racial Literacy Program is to make every educator in Scotland racially literate, aka critical race theory, right? I don't need to sort of trample into old ground per se, but we all know what the fuck it means if you paid any attention over the course of the past few years. However, that said, 3 short videos have been created to tell the program story with participants from cohort 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then bim, it all stopped. Bim! There was silence. Nobody could really find out what was going on behind the scenes at that point, right? They all started to privatize their Twitters, right? There was barely any mainstream media articles about it up until that point, or after that point, I should say. And just like that, a couple of years later, we're now on the 7th cohort. Isn't that something? That said, that's not the only thing that's going on in Scotland, strangely enough, or unsurprisingly enough, I probably should say. We've got this zero tolerance of racism in social work pledged by the Rainbow Unicorn government. Anti racism, as per usual. And the Anti-Racism Action Plan aims to improve reporting of racist incidents, increasing minority ethnic representation and leadership, and promoting culturally competent practice. Oh, yeah. Really. The Anti-Racism Action Plan, which we will click on to, right, aims to improve reporting of racist incidents, increasing minority ethnic representation, because that will solve racism, of course. Of course it will. Of course. Shoehorning in people who are not white, phenotypically speaking, will automatically go a long way to pave the way to solving racism. Mm-hmm. In leadership roles, of course, not and promote culturally competent practice, because what better way to ensure culturally competent practice than to shoehorn in brown people? The plan was developed by an anti-racism oversight group. There's always this emphasis on anti-racism, whether it's in education, whether it's in this particular instance, or whether it's in the NHS, whether it's in the police, etc. There's always a focus on anti-racism. Set up in 2023 by the Scottish Government, the Scottish Association of Social Work Scotland, and other sector bodies in the back of a 2021 report that identified significant levels of racism in the profession. following a statement of intent by the group issued in November 2024, which committed to tackling racism across social work practices in education and diversifying the professions. Leadership in Scotland. Oh, yeah. How convenient. So these people continuously bang on to know when that racism is such a prolific issue. It's an issue that is rife across society. And one of the main ways that we can quell, mediate that issue is to just hit brown people in positions of power. Funny that. Very, very funny that, isn't it? No. So anyway, this is from the Scottish Government's website. Anti-racism action plan for the Scottish social work sector. What we are going to do to make social work actively anti-racist, anti-racism. What is it? Well, if the education sector is anything to go by, then we should all know what anti-racist means. Anti-racism, of course, is critical race theory. They point to disparities. They claim that society should be representative of the fucking census, etc. 4% 2011 of the Scottish population, according to the census, was non-white. Therefore, 4% of teachers should be non-white. 4% of social workers should be non-white. 4% of the police force should be non-white, etc., etc. The list goes on. And until such a time as the populations reflect the census in terms of particular job industry, that's racism. That's just one particular instance. Right? Anyway, let's see what else they have to say here. Right? Because this shit is just never ending. It really is never fucking ending. Unfortunately, racism has life threatening effects on minority ethnic communities across Scotland. This is the Scottish Government's website. Racism has a life threatening effect on minority ethnic communities across Scotland, and this has been the case for generations. We believe that the only way to make a meaningful and lasting difference is to work together to dismantle racism in all its forms. Okay? So, what do we do? Do we open the dictionary and we look what racism is supposed to imply? Racism is supposed to be defined as? No. Let's disregard that because the anti racists all of a sudden are here to re educate you. The anti racists are here to re educate our government. The anti racists, the critical race fetus, may I add, just if you weren't catching what the fuck I'm getting at here, right? They've come in, they've been taken in to sort of educate, redefine policy, and right, push for change, right? Okay, so we need to make we need to dismantle racism in all its forms. So as I say, the Oxford Dictionary and all the other dictionaries that have come past and present, get that in the bin, right? Because it's now all about the different versions of racism, systemic, culture, microaggressions, etc., etc. In 2024 of November, the Social Work Anti-Racism Oversight Group published its statement of intent committing its members to creating a social work profession characterised by respect, dignity, and opportunity for those who choose to train and practice as social workers, for those who lead and shape social work services. Okay. Additionally, the statement of intent commits the oversight group to overseeing three key deliverables: the first national survey on racism and social work, development of a repository of anti-racism resources, and the publication of an anti-racism action plan. Okay, lovely stuff, very progressive. The action plan is the result of significant commitment from members of the oversight group who generously contributed their time and expertise to its development, arising from an explicit commitment to end racism in Scotland by partner organisations, including the government. Yeah, nationalism, folks. Whip, whip, whip. Right? Racism has no place in Scottish society, and it has no place in social work. Together, we can and must build a profession and a country where everyone is treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. Okay. Very, 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 very progressive. Indeed, may I just say. Oh, I just wish it would stop there, but it doesn't. It really doesn't stop there. It just gets worse. It gets worse and worse and worse, you know? So, what are we now? Share this. Okay, just briefly. Anti-racism action plan for the Scottish social work sector. What we are going to do to make social work actively anti-racist, okay? Just going to scroll down a bit. Publication date, July 2025, right? And it goes on to say that the action plan for the aims of the National Action Plan for Social Work, right? This is what I want to get at here. And then we get the same sort of regurgitation from the Scottish Government's own website, right? But we just come down. I'll have this bit briefly, right? Background. In 2020, Global events of 2020, including the murder of George Floyd and the unequal impact of the coup, underscore the urgent need for a strong anti-racism commitment from the health, social care, and social work sector. And back then, of course, our new unelected fucking first minister, Slippery Bald Swinney, back in the day, emphasised, right, the seriousness of racism in his vision for one Scotland, where people live in safety, peace, and prosperity. The vision made tackling racism a national priority, with the programme for government 2024 to 2025, including a pledge to embed anti-racism across the public and third sectors. More recently, in September 2024, the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care reaffirmed the necessity of a resolute anti-racist approach to addressing racism's effects and improve services across the NHS. I mean, fuck off. Oh my god, George Floyd died. Oh my god, let's start polluting our education system and every single facet of society with anti-racist bullshit, courtesy of a United States ideology, for lack of better terminology. Pardon the rhyming here, like gay. Anyway, strategic outcomes. By August of 2027, the Anti Racism Action Plan for the Scottish social work sector will deliver the following four outcomes: improving incident management, enhancing systems for reporting, recording, and addressing racist and discriminatory incidents, fostering anti racist workplace, offering guidance and resources to employers to cultivate anti racism within workplace cultures, advance racial equity, not equality, equity across work leadership and workforce development, tackling obstacles in recruitment, retention, and career progression. And even this, again, we have just totally, or these people have totally bought into the absolute bullshit that gets perpetuated by critical race theorists who masquerade as anti-racist. People are just simply trying to stop racism, right? What obstacles, right? What obstacles? Non-existent obstacles. Okay, they point to disparities, right? For if there's 50 people applying for it, I'm just going to use this example. If 50 people are applying for a job in Scotland and 49 out of those 50 people are white Scottish and one person is black, right? Guess what? Statistically speaking, the likelihood is a white guy or a white woman is going to get that job, right? Right? Okay? They will use this. They will, oh, it's because he's black. Oh, it's because he's black. But what they do not seem to acknowledge is that if we take away the black person, out of the 49 people who are all white, they're all competing amongst themselves for said job, right? Because we're supposed to live in a meritocracy. We're supposed to live in a culture that embraces and encourages individualism, right? And striving to achieve what the fuck you can. But no, because of disparities, and a disparity would be created in that hypothetical of a black person not getting the job, right? Okay, statistically speaking, okay. But guess what? Oh no, no, that needs to change. So we need to put things in place to ensure that black people get a leg up, aka equity, aka shoehorning into positions they don't necessarily fucking deserve, right? Hmm. And of course, promoting cultural competence in social work. Of course, of course. We've also got as well, you thought it'd stop there. This was from last year. This is the anti racism, our cabinet secretary statement, right? The programme for government reiterates our unswerving commitment to embedding anti racism across the public sector, right? It's just fucking so cringe. Anti racism plans, the guidance. This is for the NHS from last year. In recognising that racism is a public health issue across Scotland, we are asking our health boards to make rapid progress in tackling the impacts of racism on colleagues, service users, and on health outcomes. Right? I'd love for these people to actually define racism, but very, very quick to refer to racism when it suits them, right? The new and improved variations, and the ever expanding list of definitions when it comes to racism, but they will never actually define it. It's just never ending waffle. Absolute waffle. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying this shit.
Very well. So, first of all, we'd just like to do a little bit of welcome to the session. So, what we want to do is we just want to take a moment to acknowledge and extend a warm welcome to everyone who's here. So, we want a warm welcome, which is not just to those of us who blend in to what society deems to be normal identities, but also a warm welcome to those of us who are neurodiverse, dyslexic, autistic, to those of us who are disabled, to those of us who are queer, trans, non binary, and questioning, and to those of us who are people of colour, Black, Asian, or minority ethnic. To those of us who speak multiple languages, including Gaelic, Doric, Scots, Orcadian, Shetlandic, from all areas of Scotland who are here with us today, whether it's the Borders, Ayrshire, Central Belt, rural, city, town, and all others who are on the call today. To those of us who have caring responsibilities on top of full-time jobs. To those who are struggling to cope with mental illness, grief, chronic pain, fertility, menopause, alcohol dependency, and more. To those who are working class and who are struggling to make ends meet. A warm welcome to those of us who haven't been explicitly named, but who are also on our minds, and a warm welcome to those of us who are in positions of privilege and afraid of making mistakes, but knowing that in order to progress, it's our duty to embrace that discomfort and to keep trying our best. All of us and everyone is all welcome here. We all have different identities and different needs, so please do feel what's right to help you embrace that productive discomfort while committing to your own self-care. All of our different perspectives and experiences will add to our communities, and everyone is welcome. So what I'll do is I'll move us on in the session today. One of the things that we're really keen to ensure is that within this space that we are creating safer, braver learning spaces. So what we have to acknowledge is that the professional learning today, it may bring up different emotions in different people on the call. And what we want to do is reflect on that in terms of our personal and professional lives. We're really keen to ensure that all of our shared spaces, so whether in the main space here or in breakout spaces, are inclusive and supportive of.
That's Education Scotland, by the way, right? That's Education Scotland. The people who are educating, air quote, quote, your kids, right? Anti-racist activists, absolute crackpots, absolute non-entities, reprobates, retards, mongos, activists, none of whom are remotely qualified to be in the positions that they're in, yammering on to no end about every single facet of social justice going, and it just goes on and on and on. If it's not social work, if it's not the NHS, if it's not the police force, if it's not teachers, if it's not the government in and of itself, if it's not councils, it's our education system. You know, it's very progressive. Yeah, of course that is. It's very, very progressive.
Understanding of racial literacy and anti-racist practice. So we'll start off with those. We will be taking you through a resource that we have at Education Scotland, or Wakelet space, that we have lots of resources on, which is the Improving Racial Literacy in CLD space. So we'll take you through that so that you're able to navigate it going forward. What we want to do is promote Education Scotland's Building Racial Literacy Professional Learning programme, which is quite a big time commitment. However, is open to all practitioners, all educators, regardless of what sector you're in. So it's open to CLD. So you may be on the course at the moment, or you may never have heard of it. So we're keen to ensure that people are aware and that they register going forward.
Our government are a joke. Our education system is a joke. And practically every fucking part of our society, infrastructure wise, is becoming an increasing joke, courtesy of anti racism. Bear in mind, every single thing that these people continuously push for in order to promote equality and diversity comes at the expense of our own. Uh, Anti racism is anti white. Anti racism is critical race theory. And the sooner people realise that, the fucking better. On that note, adios.